Our huddle was absolute chaos. There's 5 guys in there with big personalities just saying how we should play the rest of the game. It was Michael Irvin, nobody can cover me, and we need to throw the ball more, and then Nate would get on, and they can't hold up front, we need to run, we need to start pounding Emmett. And as soon as Troy walked back into the huddle, you could hear a pin drop. Everything stopped. He was in control.
You gonna be a football player when you grow up?
Today is the best day of your life. Believe it.
Give me 8 years of daylight. That's all right.
Greatest leader I've ever known.
What a ride it's been!
The Cowboys quarterback from UCLA, number 8, Troy Aikman.
Troy Aikman arrived onto the national stage by way of UCLA. Fittingly, he seemed constructed in Hollywood.
He's like right out of central casting. He walks into America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. He's the quarterback. The first pick in the draft has the great Texas name, Troy Aikman. Chiseled body, blonde hair, good-looking guy.
For anyone who laid eyes on him, it was love at first sight.
He had everything you want in a quarterback. I mean, he had the height, the strength, the intelligence.
He could throw it with velocity, he could throw it with touch. He always threw it with great accuracy.
You watch his mechanics, and they're always the same. And they're just dang near perfect.
This boy threw the best balls I've ever seen in professional football. Troy Aikman ball whizzed through, and it stops right there and said, "Go ahead and catch me, baby."
It's a supersonic laser blast from Aikman to Irvin for a touchdown.
I was running around, and when I looked back, I couldn't see Troy. Next thing you know, I just see this ball come out. So I leaned over, I asked him, I said, "I couldn't even see you. Could you see me?" He said, "No, I just knew you'd be there."
I would get literally hundreds of letters from our fans that would say, "I wish Troy could look like he was having more fun. He seems so serious." Well, my answer is, how about focused?
On first and goal from the 2, still running, cuts it up at the 5. Oh, he scored! Watch this, Cowboys!
He was determined to be successful one way or the other.
I knew he would always be totally prepared. I knew that he was always going to abide by the rules and regulations.
Troy Aikman seemed more machine than man.
Sit it!
He made it look easy, so the perception was it must have come easy. He was unflappable, so the perception was he was unexcitable.
I don't know that I was always as calm as what it may have appeared. I'm certainly a very emotional guy, and I don't know that that was ever captured. The dream I would have all the time when I was playing was that I'm in the locker room and I cannot get my shoes on. You know, the game's beginning and my foot won't go into the shoe and I'm struggling and I'm doing everything that I can. I'm in a panic because I can't get my shoes on.
Most of his struggles weren't imagined. They were real. He might have seemed like a machine, but his journey was very human, full of hardships and heartache. He wasn't born to be a star, but he did grow up 25 miles outside of Hollywood.
I loved growing up in California. I had a lot of great friends. Sports was just a part of our life. Some of my closest friends went on and played professionally. Many of them played baseball, and I really believe that had I have stayed in California, that ultimately that's what I would have played as well.
Troy's father believed in hard work over play.
Growing up with my father, you were either going to be tough or you weren't going to make it. You know, you just weren't going to survive in the Aikman house.
He was pretty intense, demanded a lot. He treated me as a grown man from the time I was about 6, 7 years old.
Troy didn't know it yet, but his life of leisure was about to be transformed into a life of labor. The summer Troy entered 8th grade, his father moved the family from Southern California to a ranch in Henrietta, Oklahoma.
I'm blowing down this road, dusty road. I'm a-blowing down this old dusty road.
I truly didn't know, what I was getting into. I was used to riding my bike anywhere I wanted to go, to the park and playing sports with all my buddies. We're 7 miles outside in the middle of nowhere.
I'm a-blowing down this old dusty road, Lord, Lord, and I ain't gonna be treated this way.
And I was expected to get out there and help my father. We built our own house. It was my dad and 2 carpenters was all that it was. And I'm immediately on the roof doing roofing on the house and getting rock and things of that nature. And we had farm animals. Those animals needed to be taken care of. It was a lot of work.
It turned out a Cowboys life alongside Dad and Henrietta was the perfect introduction for a career with the Cowboys in Dallas.
Toughness, the discipline, the work ethic, those things were instilled in me as a child growing up with my father, and they were demanded of me. Without that upbringing, I don't know that I would have ever become the player that I was able to become.
Coming up, Jimmy Johnson or Barry Switzer?
I had always thought, quite honestly, that I was going to go to Oklahoma State. My mom was a typesetter for the local newspaper. Me and a few buddies, we decided to take typing. We needed an elective course, and all the great-looking girls were in that class.
He would be the one with 80, 90 words a minute, no mistakes, sound like a machine gun, and mine's over here going, he was like,
I then took typing 2, and that year I was the only guy in the class.
And he wins the state typing title at 90-something words a minute, no mistakes or something ridiculous like that.
Troy Aikman also stood out on the football field.
We weren't a real big team. I was bigger than all of the offensive linemen but one.
For those of us in high school that might sneak out, maybe have a beer or something, if you could find it, we were more worried that if Troy found out about it than if our coaches did.
Aikman's size, leadership, and talent attracted the attention of the top 2 college programs in the state. Oklahoma, coached by Barry Switzer, and Oklahoma State, coached by Jimmy Johnson.
His senior year, I actually thought he was going to come to Oklahoma State. I'd been in his home and had visited with his family.
And I said, Coach, I'm coming. I want to be a Oklahoma State Cowboy. But having said that, I want to take my last recruiting trip to OU. He tried to discourage me from doing it. I said, I just feel like I owe it to myself to see it. I'd heard it's a great weekend. And so I did. It was a special weekend at Oklahoma when they bring out the Heisman Trophy winners and you see the history of that school. I remember thinking, I don't know if I can play quarterback at this level, but I know I can play somewhere. And if I'm going to do this, I want to do it at the highest level, and I want to win championships.
And I think Switzer gave him a bill of goods about how much they were going to throw the football. And so he committed to Oklahoma. I was very disappointed.
We were going to use him as a thrower and run the option. He ran a option offense in high school.
Johnson left to coach the University of Miami, and his Hurricanes faced Oklahoma in Aikman's sophomore year.
Troy was eating us up. We were expecting, you know, the wishbone coming out of the backfield. Man, Troy was throwing that football all over the field. I remember on the sideline, we got to get him out the game.
Aikman suffered a broken leg. The Hurricanes pulled off a stunning upset. Freshman Jamel Holloway took over as the Sooners starter. Oklahoma did not lose another game and won the national championship.
Jamel Holloway was made to run the wishbone. He was a great option quarterback. Troy recognized that. He's on crutches every ball game. He had enough time to evaluate things.
He decided to transfer, and so I called and I said, hey, what can I do to get him to come to University of Miami? I thought he would have been a great player for us at Miami.
Aikman, though, longed to return to his California roots.
I was sitting in my office one day and the phone rang, and it was Barry Switzer on the line, and he said, I've got a really great quarterback in my program who got hurt a year ago, and I think he really fits into your offense.
I had to talk Terry Donahue into taking him. He thought had some reason to get rid of the kid. I said, no, this is really unusual. I said, Terry, this kid will be drafted in the first round. He's got first-round talent.
You know, it was one of the most unique and most important phone calls I ever got in my life.
He decided to go to UCLA, and for my second time, I was disappointed.
As a junior, Aikman was the Pac-10 Player of the Year. As a senior, he was the best quarterback in the country and projected to be the top pick in the upcoming draft. That pick would belong to the Packers if they lost their final game.
And Lindy Infante, who was the head coach of the Packers at the time, had already told me that if they got the #1 pick, they were taking it. And for me, it wasn't that I didn't like Green Bay. I couldn't throw a wet football. I was really, in a lot of ways, a fair-weathered quarterback.
The Packers won their last game, giving the top pick to the Cowboys. Aikman went to Dallas for the Cotton Bowl.
How are you, Coach?
Tom Landry came to see him practice.
I was terrible. I threw a bunch of interceptions. Ball was all over the place. I got a call the next morning in my hotel room from Gil Brandt, and he said, Troy, I don't care if you throw 7 interceptions in this game. You're going to be our #1 pick.
If given a choice, I'd prefer to be drafted by a warm weather team or the Dallas Cowboys. And I think Tom Landry's a great coach. You know, he's done a tremendous amount of things for the city, for the football team.
But 2 months later, the Cowboys were sold. Tom Landry was fired, and new owner Jerry Jones was expected to name Jimmy Johnson head coach.
And I remember laughing about it, thinking, you know, I've turned Jimmy down twice, and if this happens and he becomes the head coach, God, I hope he doesn't turn me down this third time.
In 1989, Jimmy Johnson was named head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. With the first overall pick, he drafted Troy Aikman. The perception was Aikman was the chosen one.
Well, I was going home to Oklahoma the weekend of the supplemental draft. And I got a call from Jerry Jones, and he said, we're going to draft Tim Rosenbaugh, the quarterback out of Washington State. He said, but we're only drafting him to trade him. I didn't think anything of it. I just thought, okay, great. And I'm driving back on that Sunday, and I'm told that they had drafted Steve Walsh. And I thought, wow, that's different than I was told. And oh yeah, this guy happened to win a national championship for my new head coach, in college. And so it was really bizarre. I didn't know what exactly that meant.
Steve was a quality quarterback that I felt like that I could get some trade value for. I know that caused a little bit of tension with Troy.
The job is really up for grabs. It sure gives me a comfortable feeling when I've got that kind of quality at the key position on your football team.
Now, I didn't want to downplay Steve Walsh as a starter because I wanted to get trade value for him.
It impacted me being an ally for Jimmy very early on in my career. He already had a relationship with Steve because they went back to college. I had no relationship with Jimmy. I'd turned him down twice already. So it created a little bit of a friction between us that took a few years to overcome.
After the 1989 training camp, Johnson was still unsure about which quarterback to go with.
They had a big staff meeting, so it was offensive and defensive coaches all in the room. And Jimmy got in there and said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go around the room, and everybody's going to pick who they think should be the starting quarterback. Alan Lowry says Troy. They go to another coach who had been in college at University of Miami. They said Steve. They go to another Miami coach, Steve. They go to another Miami coach, Steve. They get to Jerry Rome. And Jerry Rome says, if we're arguing over who should be the starting quarterback for this franchise, you guys have lost your mind. And he's going on and on. And Jimmy interrupts him and says, shut up and make your pick.
It's not even close. I said, Troy's the guy. Just so happened a lot of the Miami Hurricane coaches were on that side together. And I can see how this would happen. I mean, he just got through leading them to the national championship.
Walsh knew the offense, but it was clearly a talent difference. Troy's arm is a gift from God.
In his first season, Aikman took most of the snaps. He also took most of the beatings. He was in and out of the lineup with injuries. The perfect quarterback had an absolutely imperfect rookie season. He started 11 games and lost all 11.
The team that I had left at UCLA had more talent than this professional team that I was playing for.
To be around here in 1989 and 1990, it was a very unsettling time and an unsettling dynamic because Troy was looking over his shoulder at just about everybody in the organization, saying, does this guy know what he's doing? Does that guy know what he's doing? Do we have confidence in this guy? Do we have confidence in that guy? And the answer a lot of times was no.
Early in the 1990 season, Johnson had discussions with teams about trading Steve Walsh.
There was a lot of rumors about the Saints going to trade for me because they were struggling at their quarterback position. We were going up to play the Redskins, and I think we needed a touchdown to win. And Troy was driving us, and then he threw a pick, and we lost the game.
I'll take full blame for that. I mean, I should be able to read that and see what's going on, and it killed us and it stopped the ball game for us.
After that game, Jimmy was ready to pull the plug on the trade because he still wasn't sure if Troy was going to be his guy. And he just was so frustrated over that loss that he was almost going to pull the plug and just let the season play out and see what happened. For one reason or another, maybe they sweetened the deal, but he ended up pulling the trigger on the trade.
By 1991, the Cowboys had improved. But in Week 13, Aikman was injured in Washington.
A lot of football left. Don't worry about this. Can't go now. We'll do it again some other time, baby.
In Aikman's absence, Steve Berline led the team to 5 straight wins and a playoff berth.
And when they got close to the playoffs, the question began to be obvious. Who's your quarterback if Troy's healthy? And Jimmy publicly always said that they would go back to Troy.
I was healthy going in the last week of the season. And then I was told, well, we don't want to risk getting you injured before the playoffs because we were a wild card team. We're going to have to play the next week. So, okay, well, I'll just rest up and then be ready for Chicago in the playoffs.
I feel like I was ready last week, and the knee feels good. And yeah, I feel like I can play.
And then that week comes, someone in the press called me up and said, hey, Jimmy just had his press conference, and he announced that Steve Berline's going to be the starting quarterback against Chicago. And that's when I got upset about it. I just thought the situation was mishandled.
Troy was not 100%. So I know Troy, being the competitor, he wanted to jump back in the lineup. But we went with Steve Berline because, you know, he had been winning games for us and Troy wasn't 100% healthy.
Berline back to throw, looking left, throws it in the end zone, caught at the goal line, and Novacek pushes it in for the Cowboys touchdown.
Berline led the Cowboys to their first playoff victory of the Troy Aikman era.
And the Cowboys win their first playoff game since 1982.
And I didn't start the following week either against Detroit.
Steve Berline will start, and stop me if you've heard this before, Troy Aikman is available. Actually, look for Aikman early if the team starts to struggle.
Protection, throws it to the sideline, intercepted at the 40 by Jenkins.
Here's Troy Aikman loosening. He says he's healthy.
And he says he's disappointed, and he says he's frustrated.
With the game slipping away, Aikman was put in just before halftime. He was unable to make a difference. The Cowboys failed to score again and were crushed by the Lions.
After that game in the locker room, I just happened to run into Troy, and he went, I'm gone. I'm asking for a trade. This is not going to work. And I didn't know if he was really serious or not, so I went, well, I'm going to write that for tomorrow. And Aikman went, hold off. I'll call you Monday. Sure enough, on Monday he calls, and he went, Jimmy called me into the office a couple of hours ago. Jimmy said, this is your team. You are my guy. No more fooling around. And that meant more to Aikman than anything. That officially started the dynasty.
When the change was made, when Jimmy and I really started to turn the corner, the hiring of Norv Turner is ultimately what put us over the top.
He was perfect for us. He was perfect, and perfect for Troy.
After 3 years of, hey, these guys aren't going to make it together, not Jimmy and Troy. Boy, the trust factor with Jimmy became a brotherhood bond.
How about it, Troy? Everything going all right?
And so once he trusted the system and the guy running it, then he was able to let loose the shackles to be Troy Aikman, capital T, capital A.
It couldn't have been thrown any better.
We knew going into '92 season we were good. Didn't know how good. It was late in the year before we really realized that we were a really good team.
Super job! You are one game away from the Super Bowl!
The 49ers were still the big kids on the block. You're going to come out next week now. We go into Candlestick to play the 49ers in the NFC Championship game. We were pretty loose. You know, we felt like our season, by getting to that game, was now a success. I remember for myself not really giving much thought as to what happens if you win this game. You know, I just kind of thought, okay, we'll go play and see what happens.
Aikman back, he's pressured, he throws it out, Smith's there, he's got the first down coming right to 5. Urban block, puts it in.
It wasn't until late in the game that I actually remember thinking, hey, we're going to the Super Bowl now.
Aikman, if anybody questions this young man going back to 1989, those questions have been answered. This team's going to Pasadena.
For Super Bowl 27, the Cowboys went to Troy Aikman's old stomping grounds, where the guy cast to be a champion could fulfill his role as Hollywood hero.
For me to get to spend that week at UCLA, practicing there where I had spent 3 years of college, there was just all this familiarity that came with being out there for me that helped just settle me down and be very calm and relaxed. By far the best week of practice that I've been a part of my entire career.
It was the last day of practice, a Friday, and he was throwing like a corner route and went about 5 yards out in front of Michael Irvin, and it kind of hit the ground in front of him. And everyone kind of snapped their head and said, "What happened?" And Troy goes, "Damn, I'm human. Give me a break, you know. I mean, I missed a throw." There was no doubt in anyone's mind he was going to have a great performance in that game.
Novacek at the 2, takes it in. Touchdown, Cowboys.
Aikman unleashed an MVP performance, completing 22 of 30 passes and 4 touchdowns.
Aikman play action fake, slips, gets up, throws a deep ball. Harper's all alone. Caught it at the 5. Touchdown, Cowboys. Oh, what a throw.
After throwing a touchdown pass to Alvin Harper, and I hold up the number 1. And it's the only time I can ever remember doing that. That was that moment for me where it kind of hit me that, man, we are world champs. Going to the sidelines, seeing all those guys that were a part of that 1 in 15 year, guys who people said we would never win a championship with, there they were. And the celebration and the smiles and the hugs, and you know, that to me really is what I think of when I think of the great success.
What a ride it's been. Troy Aikman's the MVP. Jimmy Johnson's taken his team from the absolute worst to the absolute best in 4 years. And Dallas, your Cowboys are the champions.
This game meant everything to me, to be quite honest with you. A tremendous amount of weight has been lifted off of my shoulders now, and at least, no matter what happens in my career from here on out, at least I can say that I took the team to the Super Bowl and we were able to win it.
In 1993, Aikman led Dallas to a second straight Super Bowl title. The perception was Aikman and the Cowboys were in perfect position to be a decade-long dynasty. But the reality was, a major change was coming. The 1993 season ended with Troy Aikman and Jimmy Johnson celebrating their second straight Super Bowl. 2 months later, Johnson was gone, and the Cowboys had a new head coach.
I hope I can do as good a job as Jimmy Johnson. That's what you're hoping, and that's damn sure what you're hoping. That's why I'm here.
The day before we hired Barry, Troy came into my office and said, "This is the best motivator I've ever been around."
I said, "I think you'll be great."
Do you have any reaction to what's happened out here today, Michael?
And I went to Michael Irvin, and I went to Emmett Smith, and I went to all these guys, and they were all upset that Jimmy was not the head coach any longer. And I said, "I know, I'm not happy about it either. I wish Jimmy was back, but you're going to love playing for Barry Switzer, I'm telling you."
In Barry Switzer's first year, the Cowboys reached the NFC Championship game.
Intercepted by Eric Davis. And Davis will score for the 49ers.
We were down 21-0 because we turned the ball over in the first 3 possessions. Troy, he felt like we could come back. And therefore, everybody felt that way. And with Troy leading the way, there was no panic. There was no anxiety.
And Aikman to Irvin goes 44 yards, and the game might be on yet.
The Cowboys mounted a furious comeback. But in the end, it was cut short.
Well, it's the game I'm most proud of, as strange as that sounds. I'm proud of the way that we responded, and I believe that we showed the football world why it was that we had been champions.
The game symbolized the entire era. When trouble came, the Cowboys rallied around Aikman. In 1995, a series of controversies threatened to tear the team apart.
It was a circus every single day, but he was always the calming force in that locker room. They needed Troy Aikman in there to keep that thing going.
Thanks to Aikman's steady play and leadership, the Cowboys became the first team ever to win 3 Super Bowls in 4 seasons. Barry Switzer had won a title, but his coaching philosophy compared to Jimmy Johnson's could not have been more different.
Barry wanted to believe that at this level, that everybody was a man.
I don't have a bunch of 18 to 22-year-old boys that I have to shape and mold and do things like that. You're men, so I'm going to trust you to do the right thing. Well, we had a couple guys that you probably shouldn't give that much trust to.
The classic story during that whole time, we're in Cowboys training camp. The night before, Michael Irvin had led a whole group of guys out on the town, and they all came in like at 6 in the morning. And they were all hungover. And you could see it. Everybody was half sick and kind of moping around. And Switzer walks up to Aikman and says, "What do you want me to do? Cut Michael Irvin?" And Aikman looks at him and says, "No, you don't cut Michael Irvin, but you cut that guy, and that guy, and you make everybody run until they throw up in the grass." And Switzer says, "Well, I'm not going to do that." About 10 minutes in, he blows his whistle, says, "Boys, you're not really into it today. let's call it a day. And Aikman was livid.
Troy, I'll never forget one time said, we need some harder, more physical practices. Now, Barry Wink said, you know, the only one I've ever heard say that's a quarterback.
What I found was that the Barry Switzer that I played for at Oklahoma was not the Barry Switzer that I played for with the Dallas Cowboys. At Oklahoma, there was a great deal of pressure on him when I got there in 1984. So I played for a guy that was very intense. I said, Coach, let me ask you, I said, if you look back, when you were 30 years old coaching at Oklahoma, I mean, I bet you worked your tail off. And I bet now you didn't go about it the same way. And he agreed. He said, there's no question. And I said, well, I'm that 30-year-old guy now. I'm not winding down the years and saying, okay, well, I'm only going to coach another year or two. You know, I didn't even expect to get this job. You know, this is important to me.
I think Troy didn't like the way my style versus Jimmy's style. I knew that. That's not going to happen because I'm not Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson couldn't coach my way either.
Am I happy with my relationship with Aikman? As I've told you before, you know, I don't know whether Chuck Noll had a great relationship with Terry Bradshaw or not. It wasn't important. He won 4 Super Bowls, right? That's the bottom line. I'm not going to drink RC Colas and double date and, you know, with him. We're not going to do those things. I mean, just it's not part of the game. It's not important.
When Jimmy was the head coach, it was a good cop, bad cop type relationship.
Hold on that damn football! God dog it!
He'd rip into guys, and guys are upset and frustrated, and I'd say, hey, just let it go. Let it go. Hey, don't worry about him. Let's just go practice. But deep down, I agreed with everything that he said. And then after he left, there was nobody that was doing that. It was very difficult then to always be the bad guy.
You got packed, 136 packed. You know the play?
Yeah.
Guys, we're junior high. That's junior high. That's so damn pitiful it ain't even funny. Let's go. You know, we're not good enough. We're not as good as we used to be, you know, continually overcome that. You know, we can't have negative plays.
I remember a time I was hurt. Troy came to me and said, I need you to practice. I just need you out there.
16.
Practices are different without you being out there. I need you out there driving the guys. He said, it's just a difference. And that was the first time I really felt like I feel the pressure. I feel that he feels he has to do the things that Jimmy used to do to keep everybody there. And I'm sure that took a lot of fun out of it for him.
As great as the first part of my career was, the back half of my career was every bit as frustrating. Once Jimmy left, I felt like we were kind of hanging on. We weren't as good in '94 as we had been in '93. In '95, we won the Super Bowl, but we weren't as good of a football team in '95 as we had been in '94. And it continued.
In the 1996 playoffs, the mighty Cowboys were taken down by a second-year expansion team. In '97, they hit bottom. Aikman felt it coming. In preseason,
Hey guys, that's a embarrassment out there. That's a damn embarrassment. We can't block anybody up the down or hugging the ball early. Junior League. Somebody's got to get their attention, and I'll tell you, Jack, I am tired of being a guy who's got to run down everybody's damn throat all the time. Why don't we have a coach who gets over there and does something about it? Instead, we want to go over and pat everybody on the ass, and they haven't done their job all night. Guys out there off, and nobody says anything about it. We got a head coach that won't say anything about it. We got coaches offensively that won't do anything about it. I mean, enough's enough. Babysitting's over.
the Cowboys finished with a winning record in only one of Aikman's final 4 seasons. Coming up, Aikman's surprisingly long goodbye.
My time's come.
And
45.
Troy Aikman's final season began ugly and ended sadly. In the first game of the year, he was booed by the home crowd.
Troy Aikman's got to be angry. You know, this is his home. I mean, he's been here for so many years and led this team to 3 championships. And to have a crowd, you know, boo him, I think it's despicable, to be honest with you.
Instead of riding off into the sunset in a Hollywood ending, this was the last snap of football that Troy Aikman ever played.
Looking and throws it away. Takes a big hit. Wow, Arrington with a big close. Look at the impact Arrington has on that hit.
It's official now. Troy Aikman has suffered another concussion. His terrible luck with head injuries continues.
And that's been a recurring problem. It's something that Troy has to consider as he thinks about his future.
You know, all these people think that I got out of the game because of, you know, head injuries, and that concussions had nothing to do, absolutely nothing to do with my retirement. Ultimately, the reason I retired after 12 years was because I felt that I had worked hard to develop some level of credibility and respect within this game. And I felt like that was being jeopardized by decisions that were being made beyond my control within the organization. And I didn't want to be a part of it anymore.
The quarterback who was perceived to be robotic, impersonal, and tight-lipped showed who he really was and where he was headed in an hour-long retirement speech.
today I announced my retirement from the National Football League and the Dallas Cowboys. And it was 12 of the best years of my life. I've been playing this game since I was 7 years old, and to all of a sudden recognize that you're not going to be doing it anymore is hard.
When I look back on my athletic career, I know the fans want to talk about the Super Bowls, and I'm proud of those. You know, there's no question those are meaningful things. But what I'm most proud of is the friendships that I have to this day.
The day that I retired, he gave me a present. It was a mantle clock. What he wrote on the back said, Jay, friendships shared hold lasting memories of great times. Troy, 7/15/97. You know, something like that, with that inscription on the back. I mean, that's more than any Super Bowl ring, any trophy, or anything like that. When I was at my lowest point, sitting up in the courtroom all by myself, I looked around, you know, the only person showed up? The only dude that showed up. I know everybody told him to just stay away, but he showed up anyway. And I love him for that, and I appreciate him for that.
I know there's been a lot of speculation as far as me moving into broadcasting, and that certainly is on the front burner.
The stoic, almost robotic-looking guy on the sideline, the emotionless guy. The reason people were surprised that he was successful on television was that they thought that's who he was. And then they found out that's not who he was. As soon as he got a chance to be Troy Aikman, he was an unavoidable success.
When you make the move to the inside, I was told you weren't real happy about that.
It wasn't like a discussion. It was like you're going inside. I was like, okay, all right, you know.
His job has changed, but Aikman is still the good old boy from Henrietta, Oklahoma, typing a mile a minute and waking in the night from a recurring dream.
The dream I would have all the time when I was playing, when I cannot get my shoes on, I don't have that one anymore. Now I have dreams that I'm broadcasting the game and I have no idea what two teams are playing each other, and I've done no preparation. I don't have no idea what I'm going to say during the broadcast.
His preparation is phenomenal. It's the best I've ever been around.
Heck, I'm excited about this one.
He wants to I think, go into a game as well studied and as well versed in what the other team is doing as he did when he was a player.
All right. In conclusion, probably some of you are wondering, where I go from here. First and foremost, and most importantly, is I'm going to be a father.
For as long as I can remember, it's been like the 5 days in the school week, and he takes us to school every morning, and then on Friday after he takes us to school, he has to head out to wherever he's broadcasting that weekend, but we always see him Sunday night, and it's really not that bad.
Because we get to see him on TV too, and we try to watch the games that he's broadcasting unless we don't have sports.
My kids never saw me play. Their friends never saw me play football. They know I was a quarterback, but they never saw me play. Now they know me because I'm a broadcaster and that he once was a Cowboys quarterback. You know what? I'm kind of glad about that, though. I mean, that's okay with me. What's your strategy in buying a railroad? As far back as I can remember, I've always wanted to be a dad. It's tougher than any blindside blitz or, anything you see on a football field. I was taking the girls on walks, and Jordan's my oldest. She was playing lacrosse, and I said, hey, you haven't been practicing and doing the things that your coach has been asking you to do. And as I'm walking, I don't feel my girls walking alongside of me anymore. So I stop and I turn around, and they're 10 yards behind me, and my oldest Jordan's just sitting there with her head down, kind of sulking, and I went up and I got down on a knee, and I said, darling, I said, what's wrong? And she said, Dad, you have to know I'm not going to be a professional athlete. And it was kind of a punch to the stomach, because I never would ever want them to think that I have these expectations of them athletically because of anything that I maybe accomplished. But I told her, I said, you know what? I don't think you're going to be a professional athlete either. In fact, I'm almost certain you will not be a professional athlete. But you're going to be something. You're going to be something in life, whether it's a nurse, a lawyer, a doctor, whatever, a housewife, a mom. You're going to be something, and you want to be the best that you can be at it.
Aikman proved he's not a machine. It was a very human desire to pour his heart and soul into being the best quarterback, the best broadcaster, the best friend, the best dad he could be.
I've got two awesome girls, and they have meant everything to me. So whether someone knows me as a Hall of Fame quarterback, a broadcaster, if when they are older, if they look back, excuse me, and they say he was a great dad, then, I will have been successful.
When Troy looks back and thinks about his football life, he wonders what more he could have achieved.
Troy tell you, he says it all the time, we should have won more. Honestly, if we would have had more people like Troy, I'm guarantee you we would have won more.
I was going to come out of retirement. My third year out, I got a call from Wanstead, and he was the head coach.
He was with the Dolphins when they made a run at me. He says, I'd like to get with you. Norv was the offensive coordinator. So I visited with him. He talked to me. He says, do you think you could come back and play? And I called him up when I got back, and I said, you know what, I think I want to do it. He said, okay. I said, well, I'm going to start training as though I'm coming back. So I did.
Ultimately, Miami didn't sign him. But Troy Aikman didn't need a comeback. His career was complete. He won 3 Super Bowls and was a first-ballot Hall of Famer.
I wanted to be the greatest quarterback ever. And I knew early on that whatever legacy I was going to have, it was going to be because of our ability to win championships. I feel like my career was a success, and to me, that's what I played for.